Hello, Neil Sheth here, and welcome to How Do You Make Money, where I interview entrepreneurs and talk about how they make money by breaking down their product marketing and sales strategy. Today, we're going to be talking to Trent Dyrsmid. I should have checked this in the pre-interview. Is that how I pronounce your surname?
Dyrsmid.
Dyrsmid, who is a process automation expert and the founder of Flowster, Bright Ideas, and TLK Sourcing. You are busy. Over the last 3 years, his business has ranked twice on the Inc. 5000. And in addition to being a founder, Trent is a husband and a father. Welcome, Trent. Thanks so much for being here.
Neil, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
So we've just spoke about your background and your setup before we actually started this interview, which is leaving me super envious. But tell me how you got here, not the background, the setup, like how you got to launching 3 businesses. Where did you start and how did you get there?
Sure. So for me, my journey started back in 2001 was when I started my first company, which is, I don't own that one any longer. And after I sold that in 2008, I obviously was afforded the opportunity to not have to go right back to work. I was able to take some time off and go into what I called a mini retirement. And in that mini retirement, I moved to California, I rented a beach house, and I started surfing because I wanted to learn how to surf. And I became a very average surfer. But during my surfing escapades, I met someone who was making her living online, and I knew nothing about making money online at the time. And so I started off as an Amazon affiliate. I built all these little websites and I ranked them for keywords, and I would get traffic to go to Amazon. And while I was doing that, which I was making, I don't know, $3,000-$4,000 a month, which was really cool because you didn't have to do much work once the websites were up. I started blogging, and then I started podcasting. And so the Bright Ideas podcast was born about 10 years ago. And it has been the best business safari that I have ever been on. The podcast takes me to all these great places through the people that I meet. And so back in about 2012, 2013, because of the audience of the podcast, we started a digital marketing agency because people in the audience kept reaching out. Can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Can you help me with the other thing? And then in 2016, I interviewed someone who was selling products on Amazon using the reseller model.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided that I would do that. And that's when TLK was born. And that's when things really started that was the beginning of a big upward swing in my business career. So TLK grew really, really quickly. We went from zero to $100,000 a month in revenue in just 5 months. And then that company has gone on to rank twice on the Inc. 5000. In 2019, we were number 254 with a 3-year growth rate of about 1,700%. And then the next year, 622, I think, was our rank. And the thing that made me a little bit famous in my corner of the internet is that when I launched TLK, I did everything. I took a very process-oriented approach. So rather than rolling up my sleeves and working crazy amounts of hours to work in the business every single day, I worked in the business only just long enough so that I could write business processes, checklists, basically, highly detailed checklists that I could then hire other people to replace me in each of those jobs. And so we hired a little army of Filipino virtual assistants to do a bunch of the really boring, to be honest with you, and highly repetitive parts of the product sourcing process. And then all I would do was I would talk to these brands once they went through our prospecting system. They would book an appointment with me, and I would convince them to do business with us. So that made me super focused on the thing that I was really good at, which was talking to the brands. But all that noise beforehand, finding the products, doing the research, doing the math, putting them in spreadsheets, blah, 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 blah. I had virtual assistants doing all of that stuff. And that's the biggest mistake that I see other people making when they try to become an Amazon reseller, is that they try and do all this stuff themselves. So now I've got the podcast and I've got this TLK business. So that's 2 of the 3 companies that I now have. So after about a year of running TLK before I fired myself from it. I got invited to speak at a conference where there was several hundred other aspiring and small Amazon resellers in the audience, and I did not have a software company at the time. And I got up on stage and I said, "Hey, everybody, it's really nice to be here. Thank you for having me. I don't have anything for sale, so this isn't a product pitch. I'm just going to explain to you how I've sourced so many products so quickly." And I think that there was, I produce a lot of content, a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos. So the people in the audience, they knew me much better than I knew them, obviously. And at the end of my talk, a bunch of hands shot up and they said, all those processes, standard operating procedures that you said you took a year to develop and you wrote for your company, we want those. Can you sell us a copy? And it hadn't occurred to me that anybody would ever want to buy copies of standard operating procedures. But people barely want to talk about standard operating procedures because it's not the sexiest topic in the world. And so I said, yeah, well, I guess we could do that. And they sold like gangbusters. In the first week, we sold $400,000 worth. $400,000. And so I was like, wow, this is crazy. So that's when I decided that I needed to have a software company. Where is it there? So Flowster, the logo that's up there somewhere. I can't point in reverse very badly or very well. So Flowster was born, and because we needed a place at the time, our procedures were just in somebody else's software. Because why would I make my own software company when other ones existed? But once the product became something that I was going to be selling, I realized, well, I want to own the software layer where the content, so the standard operating procedures are the content, words, pictures, images, videos, but they need to live somewhere. So we built the software platform, and that changed the trajectory of my future. Instead of now trying to grow, an Amazon business, which I still own, and it's still very profitable for us, but I don't work there anymore. I haven't in years. Neither does my wife yet. We both draw pretty healthy salaries from the company, even though we don't work there, which is very nice. My focus now is on growing Flowster because I realize that every business of every size in every industry can grow faster if they have great, highly defined processes. But there's a couple problems. One, there wasn't a lot of software applications. There's lots of project management software, but there's not very much process management software, at least for the smaller business sector. If you go up to enterprise, yeah, there's lots, but I don't compete in that space. So opportunity number one is there was room for another player. The other problem that small business owners have is they don't want to create the processes themselves because it's very time consuming. And so I realized accidentally that people were quite willing to pay for niche specific, in this case, Amazon reseller, pre-made standard operating procedures. I sold millions of dollars worth of these things over the last 2.5, 3 years. And so I thought, okay, well, we'll do something a little bit different than what all the competitors are doing. We'll not only bring a software platform, but we'll offer all these pre-made templates so as to make it easier for people so they don't have to start at zero. They could literally just grab the playbook, I'm going to be a reseller. We call it WEBS. It stands for Wholesale E-commerce Business Systems. And now we've got a bunch of different playbooks, not just that.
Okay.
And then the other thing we realized is some people, are going to want completely custom built ones, but they don't want to do them themselves. So we have our little army of VAs. We call it the SOP concierge service, where if you have content in, Google Docs or video or wherever it is, we will basically Flowsterize it for you and turn it into these procedures in our software. And so that business now is growing. We're at the point where we're really trying to figure out our product market fit because we don't just sell to Amazon resellers. Mm-hmm. We actually are looking at going up market a bit more, a little bit bigger company than that. And so, but we're still growing at around 20% a month right now. And there's the sky's the limit. There's just so much opportunity for that business. And I'm super duper focused on achieving what I hope to be some pretty extraordinary growth over the next few years.
So that's a really good overview. It's actually really relevant. I just came back from a meeting with our content manager, and we were just talking about processes and procedures. So yeah, we might have to look at Flowster in the near future, because we've just finished, I think we've got at least 50 or 60 procedures in Google Docs that we've just completed for
Mm-hmm.
a new brand that we're launching next
Mm-hmm.
month. It's a content creation brand called Rightfully. So yeah, that actually might be a good fit for Flowster. So definitely we'll keep that in mind when we're ready. So just so I get this, and we'll get into the numbers and all that stuff. You've got Bright Ideas Podcast, which is a podcast where you create content, and I'm guessing you monetize that via ad sponsors. And sorry, for those actually watching this this interview and not listening to it, going, "Why isn't Neil looking at this screen?" It's because whilst Trent is speaking, I am technically drawing this picture of how Trent makes money, and in about 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I'm going to flip the screen, and then we're going to just make sure I've got everything, I've laid it out correctly. So that's why I'm looking. And if you're listening to this, go check out the YouTube channel, and then try forward yourself towards the end of the video if you want to skip the audio and just and see the diagram to see how Trent makes money, because everything you're doing sounds super smart. So the Bright Ideas podcast, you make money through ad sponsors. You mentioned agency, but is it mainly ads or something else?
Yeah, so it's changed a little bit. So 2 years ago, before Flowster existed, the single largest source of revenue for Bright Ideas was selling this webs product that I talked about. And so Bright Ideas would do about $1 million a year in gross revenue. But we've basically transferred that intellectual property to the software company. And so now Bright Ideas is a pure media company, and we make money from sponsors of the show and some affiliate commissions for the most part. It went from being my most profitable entity, but then when I stripped out the intellectual property and transferred it to the software company, now it's the third most profitable of the three.
Interesting. Yeah, I was talking to my accountant about IPs and all that stuff. So ads and affiliate, how does that work? Can you give us a sense of, if you have a sponsor sponsoring the show, do you have packages? Give us a
Yeah.
sense of like how much you charge.
Yeah, so we don't do any outreach for sponsors at all. We just wait for them to find us. And like this morning, one found us and they wrote me an email. I want to buy your gold package. Well, that's $5,000 for the gold package. So it's the simplest sales process in the world. I send them the link for the gold package, and they put their credit card in, and they send us $5,000. There are a lot of podcasters who do a lot better job than I do of monetizing their podcast business, because maybe they don't have a software business, and maybe they don't have an Amazon reseller business, so they're just doing the one thing, and smart for them if they are. So I do my best to sort of juggle them, but that's how Bright Ideas makes money.
That's clever. That 5,000 package, is that for what period of time is that for?
That's our gold package, and they get a published interview. They get ads, I think, in 4 episodes. There's some other stuff I can't remember. There's a page, I think, if you go to brightideas.co/sponsors or sponsorship, something like that, it explains the packages.
Interesting. And super simple. Okay, so awesome. TLK Sourcing, the bit I missed is, okay, in a nutshell, what does TLK actually do?
That's the Amazon reseller business.
Okay.
So we partner up with brands, established brands, predominantly US based. And these brands typically will have problems on Amazon. And so we say to them, our pitch is, look, we will help you fix these problems. Now, one problem could be lack of sales, but oftentimes there are other problems. We'll help you clean it up, fix it, manage it, streamline it. And rather than send you a bill, like if you were an Amazon brand management agency, which there's nothing wrong with that business model. Lots of people do that. I've got friends that make buckets of money doing that. But we instead make money by buying their products wholesale and reselling them on Amazon. And the reason I like that method is they never really know how much we're making, because we're sending them checks instead of sending them invoices. Whenever you send someone an invoice, you're reminding them every single month that they owe you money. And then they're going to think, well, what has he done for me lately? What has he done for me lately? Whereas when you send them checks, they just cash the check. They don't think how much work did he or didn't he do. They just cash your check.
You're getting paid on performance ultimately, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so smart. So the revenue depends on that. That makes total sense. And then Flowster, how does that work from a pricing perspective?
So Flowster has three different pricing plans. They're all on the pricing page. There's the starter plan, which I think is 29 bucks a month, the growth plan, which is 79 a month, and the enterprise plan, which is 199 a month. And so on the starter plan, you can have up to 20 SOP templates in your account, and you can get templates from the marketplace. You can make your own, but if you get them from the marketplace, they're not customizable. If you go onto the growth plan, you can have up to 200 templates. You get 5 included users, and you can customize any template that you get from the marketplace. And then the enterprise plan is just the all you can eat, no restrictions of any kind.
Got it. Yeah, it's super smart around how you get your VAs in Philippines to turn your existing or your new customers' processes into your procedures, because I can imagine that being a big, like for me, when you said that, that got my attention, and it reminds me of email marketing software where active campaign will migrate you from any other platform, or vice versa. MailChimp and the others will do that. So I really like how you do that. Tell me about I've got actually, before we get into the nitty gritty of each one, well, give me a sense of the business. Like, where are you, how large, how small is the business? I'm guessing you're 7 figures plus, reaching 8
Right.
figures, not more. Are you in the 8-figure range, or are you
No, not yet. Not yet. But Flowster could get us there, within 12 to 24 months, depending on how quickly we can make it grow. Right now, we're, I don't know, 3 million ish across. Like Flowster's really small on revenue at this point in time. It's not even a million, but between the other two, so about 3 million ish. And I think if I include all the employees, the developers, the virtual assistants, there's across all three companies, there's probably around 20 people or so.
okay.
With a huge with the lion's share of them being overseas developers and virtual assistants. In terms of employees, there's my co-founder, me, my wife, and one US employee who's my social media manager. And that's it.
That's really interesting. I can see how Flowster is the scalable one.
It is only because every SaaS business is super scalable. When you this whole thing of product market fit and positioning. So in a sentence, it's this: you need to be the best in the world at delivering something of value to a super well-defined target audience that cares deeply about what that something is. So if you think about that, like, let's use Trello as an example. Who could use Trello? Anybody could use Trello in any industry. Trello was originally created for developers. So in the beginning, they probably focused all of their marketing just on developers that maybe developed some kind of something. So very much a small echo chamber. And then you get a lot of traction in that echo chamber, and then you make your echo chamber a little bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. So in Flowster's case, we're trying to do the same thing because our software could be used. I mean, we have law firms that use it. We have marketing agencies that use it. We have property managers that use it. They all just kind of found us, but we're really trying to dial our marketing in to really be tight. And when we get that really dialed in, then growth rate will increase because we'll get much better at writing the ads and making sure we target the audience better, and the whole onboarding process and so forth. So every SaaS business struggles with this in the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like so recently we're in the middle of migrating from Asana to ClickUp. I'm sure you're aware of ClickUp as a platform. And we're only doing that now because we're taking process automation like really seriously. We've always taken it seriously, but not to this level. And ClickUp's interesting because it's got a really powerful community behind it where they share comments and ideas. And I feel like ClickUp people are really serious about process, project management, procedures, like the nitty gritty detailed stuff. So if I was in your shoes, I feel like anyone that goes towards ClickUp would seriously understand the power of Flowster. Whereas I don't think my mindset was right, or I wouldn't be right if I came across Flowster when I was in the Asana world.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm on ClickUp and I'm looking at, and I was playing with Zapier the other day, even Zapier.
Yep.
Zapier is another one.
I
I feel
use
like,
it extensively.
yeah, like you don't need to explain Flowster too much for me to get it because I've done all that research. I'm looking into it. So yeah, just something to think about there. So
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
no worries. I mean, to take that further, as a marketer, if there's a partnership with ClickUp, that could be huge. But I do know ClickUp have they've got their own docs within there. I feel like there's probably a nice fit there as well. But so I've got a really good sense of how large the business is. You've already said Flowster's a smaller percentage of the pie. Does that basically mean that TLK Sourcing is taking the lion's share of that 3 million?
It is probably now 2.5 million of the 3 million.
Yeah,
It's the most gross revenue, but over the last 2 years, it was not the largest source of profit.
got it.
Selling copies of webs was by far the most profitable because on a digital product, there's no cost of goods sold, so it's pretty profitable.
Fair enough. Okay, awesome. So so customer sourcing, you talked about like where your customers come from for Bright Ideas podcast. It's inbound, you're reactive to it. TLK, do you go out there? Do you go out there to the marketplace? Are you looking at Amazon, going, this could be so much better? Let me go contact the brand. Is that what it looks like, or is there another
Yeah,
approach?
TLK grows exclusively and solely through outbound marketing. We don't do any content marketing to speak of. We don't run any ads. Again, if it was my only business, we would absolutely do that.
Hmm.
But Flowster is the thing that I'm most focused on growing. So Flowster is the thing that gets all the attention. And that's Flowster has content marketing. Flowster has ads. Flowster has outbound. Like all of these things we're working on. They're really like I've only been marketing Flowster for 6 months as a standalone platform. Before that, the only people that really ever signed up for Flowster were people that bought webs because I didn't market Flowster at all. And I realized that in order to grow Flowster into what I really want to grow it into, I had to go well beyond just Amazon resellers as my customer cohort. And that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to put all of my attention into trying to grow Flowster into the biggest, baddest software company I could.
Interesting. So with TLK, that's outbound, looking at the brands, sending them an email, getting in touch with them. With Flowster, you talk about content marketing, ads, outbound. Can you just break that down? So content marketing, what does that look like for you?
For me, it's a lot. I really leverage the podcasts. I do YouTube videos, although I'm going to start doing a lot more of them. Social media. So we've built what we call the content marketing engine. And the way it will work moving forward is that 3 times per year, I'll take 2 days and I'll shoot 18 videos over 2 days. And then those videos, now this is all in addition to the podcast, because we do what I'm about to describe, we also already do with the podcast. Those videos then get published on YouTube, obviously 1 per week over an 18-week period. But they also get sliced up by our editing team into little 30-second clips and 60-second clips and 90-second clips, whatever Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn and whatever all those platforms want is what we give them. And so we're repurposing. So you can take my 1 minute, my one, say 10-minute YouTube video, and I might end up with maybe 50 or 60 pieces of content because of all the chopping that we're doing. Then we're going to do transcriptions and we're going to do all this stuff, and we spread it all over social, so that every single week across all of my social channels, we have hundreds of posts. And all I had to do was talk into the microphone and the camera for 8 minutes. And then the team handles everything else. So we talk about the power of process. All of the processes that we've developed for that are going to be published to the Flowster process library, where any other Flowster customer can come and get those processes without having to create them from scratch. And it took my social media manager weeks to develop all the processes and the checklists and the spreadsheets and make it all work together and so forth to make it relatively painless. So
Yeah.
content marketing, that's like, I don't sit down and write blog posts. I just don't have the patience to do it. I've done hundreds of them. I just don't want to do it anymore. But at some point we will employ writers to do that.
Yep.
So
You
podcast, what's
or
that?
or you could just reach out to Rightfully when we launch.
We could do that too. So podcasts and YouTube videos and social media are predominantly the content marketing. Then we'll use, right now we've just started with some Google search ads, mostly to acquire data and look at test conversions and so forth. But at some point there will probably be full on LinkedIn campaigns, Facebook campaigns, Google campaigns. But as I'm purposely not raising money for the company from other investors, I'm also trying to run it profitably. Like last month was our first profitable month, and we're only 6 months old. So, we have to go at a little slower pace than other companies who've gone out and raised, $8 or $10 million from venture capitalists, and they go and spend that money on ads like drunken sailors. I don't know. I don't care to do that. And then partnerships. We have, like, for example, a content partner program where in our marketplace, one of the things that we realized is, okay, I don't have, like, let's fast forward a few years when we've got lots of different industries and lots of different niches and we've got content for them all. Well, how would we have got that? I don't have all that expertise. So what we do is we identify partners in specific other industries or other categories of an industry, and then we get them to publish their procedures on Flowster, and it's economically beneficial for them to do that. And then that increases the amount of content that we have in Flowster's SOP template library, which then makes the whole Flowster even more usable for more people because it provides more value.
So just to understand that, let me just reframe some of this. So the content marketing, I understand. There's actually a tool that I'm looking at when it comes to repurposing called repurpose.io in terms of cutting up the videos. So anyone watching this that's thinking what Trent is sharing is awesome, that tool might be useful. I haven't used it yet. We are about to use it. But yeah, all of that sounds smart. Google ads, Facebook ads, you're going to be trying the ads to see what the ROAS is. That's something that comes in the future. The partnerships thing. So I was following along and then I got lost along the way. So just so I understand, when you said it's economical for them to publish their procedures, why is it economical for them? So let's say I'm a partner. You ask me to publish my procedures onto Flowster. Is that because I'm getting a commission every time someone buys my procedures or someone uses my procedures?
There's 3 ways that you can get paid.
Okay.
So let's walk through the 3 scenarios. So you publish this content and you could not charge. So, well, you could charge money for it. So Flowster's marketplace has a shopping cart and a checkout system. And so in addition to somebody needing to have the Flowster subscription to use the software, you could charge them $100, $500, $3,000, whatever number you want for those procedures. And when they check out through Flowster, you're going to get almost all of that money. That's way number 1. Now, the other thing is, if you're a Flowster affiliate, you're also going to get 40% of the subscription fees that they pay Flowster for life. And then the third method is, if you didn't want to charge for, you could say, well, I'm going to make this one $9.99, but you're going to do a webinar and you're going to give everybody a coupon code and make it 0. But then you can put your own calls to action in your own procedures. So let's say that you were an agency and you published some procedures on, I don't know, Facebook ads or something like that. Some percentage of the people who come and download and use your procedures because they were free in the Flowster marketplace are going to think, well, these procedures are really great, but I don't really want to do all the work. It's just too much work. So who are they going to call? Well, probably the guy that wrote the procedures. And especially if the last step in every procedure is, hey, like the procedure, but don't really want to do the work, give us a call. We'll do it for you. So you can turn them into lead generators for you as well.
Interesting. Okay, I see. I follow that. And then, so you've got partnerships and then outbound. You mentioned outbound. What does outbound look like for you for Flowster?
So that's our most recent partnership actually is with a guy by the name of Joe Petruzzi, and he is an outbound specialist. And in working with him, we've published the Outbound Marketing Playbook, which if anyone's curious, they can get to it at flowster.app/OMP. And essentially outbound, we build a tech stack that basically automates a huge chunk of outbound. And then it's all about figuring out the right messaging for your particular target audience, and you're using a combination of cold email and LinkedIn and personalization, really just trying to book appointments to, in our case, to do demos.
Nice. And you've been running for 6 months. Can I ask roughly how many customers you have today?
So there's about 400 and change paying customers. We used to have a freemium model, so there's almost 7,000 users on the platform. And yeah, that's about it.
So 400 customers today.
Roughly.
Wow. And then as you look at those marketing strategies, what's contributing to the large portion of that?
The biggest portion has been historical sales of my webs product, which
I can imagine.
like I said, going forward, that's not like if you ask me that 6 months from now, the answer will have changed.
Yeah.
Because here's what we realized. So many of the people that were buying webs are aspiring entrepreneurs. They don't yet have a business, they're hoping to have one.
Yeah.
Just the very nature of entrepreneurship, 95% of those people will give up.
Yeah.
And so when they give up, they stop paying for Flowster. So that produces a churn problem. In SaaS terminology, when someone stops using their software, we call it churn. So churn is bad. So what we decided to do is focus our efforts on finding on companies that are already in business, that have cash. So they're operational entrepreneurs more than they're aspirational entrepreneurs. And the thinking there is they're going to be able to pay to use the software for a much longer period of time.
Got it. This is brilliant. There's so much information here. My last question on Flowster is, what does the sales process look like? Is there a free trial, or are they just going straight into the basic product? What do you tend to see?
No, there's a free trial. So any of the plans you sign up, and it's a 7-day free trial. And then the very first email that you get will be, hey, go book a demo with our customer success team. And the reason that we do those is that when people show up for the demo, they're more likely to convert to a paid customer. For example, before we did this, our trial to paid conversion was around 22%. I built this new funnel last month, and last month's our trial to conversion was 88%.
Wow, that's amazing. So just so I break this down, you've got someone goes to the landing page, they sign up to a 7-day free trial. They'll then get an immediate email that says, hey, book a demo with someone. And then they'll book a demo, and that person will convert after the 7-day trial to a paid membership at 80+%.
In the last 30 days, that was the number. Yes. I don't know yet if that 88% is going to be normal or if that was an anomaly. The other thing that demo allows us to do is upsell them into what we call our SOP concierge service, where we say, hey, do you have a bunch of content in Google Docs or in Asana or some other place? Would you like us to Flowsterize it all for you? Oh, yes, I would. Okay, well, let's look how much it is. Oh, that's going to be $3,700 or whatever the number is.
Interesting.
Think about that, Neil. Once someone has invested $3,700 or $10,000 or $1,200 to Flowsterize their content, what's the likelihood they're going to churn out of our software?
Yeah, it's highly unlikely.
Low.
Or you're talking years.
Yeah.
That's really smart. It's interesting because ClickUp messaged me yesterday, and she said, hey, how's the move going? How's the migration from Asana to ClickUp going? And I said, yeah, I haven't had a chance yet. We've just added our content manager who's going to add in the rest of the team very soon. And then she said, well, I'm here to help. So we do training and we can get everyone onboarded and comfortable. And I was like, that's interesting. What does that look like? So I'm still waiting for the email, but it sounds like she is going to train our team, spend time to train our team, make sure they're all comfortable. And there's a reason why they're going to do that, is because we're going to use the app, we're going to get everyone on it, and we're going to be on that app for a lot longer. We've been on Asana since I started the business, which is 4 and a bit years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so if ClickUp works for us, you bet your money we're going to be on there for 5+ years easily, unless I find ClickUp number 2.
Well, you should definitely get yourself a Flowster demo before you switch over to ClickUp. I'll tell you that.
There you go.
We have a couple of key features that they don't. And when people see this, I call it the magic button. When they see this one particular thing, that is generally the magic button closes more deals for us than anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your
so in case people are curious as to what it is, I'll just quickly explain it. So in Flowster, we have this vernacular called template and workflow. So a template is like, let's use a podcast episode as the example. So I have one template. It's 5 steps long for producing a podcast episode. But I'm regularly producing podcast episodes, and at any particular point in time, and this could be a blog post. I mean, just think of any repeatable thing that your team is doing. So at any point in time, we probably have 10 podcast episodes in various stages of production, from pre-interview to recording to sharing on social media to whatever. If I go to a podcasting conference and I get this awesome idea on how to improve my process for podcasting, I can go to my template, my master copy, and add in like step number 64 and blah, 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 blah. When I am done that, Flowster's magic button is going to say, well, hey, you have 10 active workflows, one for each episode. Based on this template, would you like me to update those for you as well? And so you would say yes. Single click of the yes button saves you having to individually go and update each workflow, saves you having to have a team meeting or a Zoom meeting or training or anything, because now everybody on your team, regardless of where in the world they are, and no matter where in the workflow they are, they can't complete that workflow until they do that new step that you just added in.
Interesting. Yeah, so we're using ClickUp as our project management tool. So I do see how that works. Yeah, we're not going to be using it at this stage for procedures, processes. To be honest, I don't even know.
Okay. Well, then maybe they would work beautifully together, because there is a Zapier integration for Flowster and ClickUp, presumably.
Yes.
So you could say, when this thing happens in ClickUp, make this other thing happen in Flowster.
Yeah, so there's this, I mean, we could riff on this all day, but there's this area called Docs. I haven't looked into it because my real problem is the project management side of things, the tasks, the automation, all of that stuff. And then, but you can easily add in links to Google Docs. I'm sure you can integrate quite nicely to Flowster. Yeah, I'm sure there's a combo there. So this is super cool. 7-day trial, just to make sure I got that 7-day trial. Then they book a demo, paid customer, that person's staying for ages. So if anyone's watching this, listen to this, and you're in a business where actually it's a bit complicated to get started, or you might need someone to hold your hand just to get going. If you're worried about spending the time with that customer to hold their hand, well, you've heard it from Trent, that person will stay a lot longer. So if you need some justification, there it is. They're going to be paying you a lot longer than a customer who will just buy without that handhold. So that is super interesting. So I'm going to present this in a sec. Before I do, for Trent, anyone that's watching this, listen to this, and they're super inspired by all these businesses that you've run, what's one thing that you would share in the years that you've been in business that's really helped you to get you to where you are today?
So I'll give 2 pieces of advice. One is for the aspirational entrepreneur, and one is for the operational entrepreneur. Aspirational entrepreneurs are chronically stuck by analysis paralysis. They are looking for the paint by numbers, turnkey, guaranteed to work, zero risk business. And until they find that unicorn, which they never will, they sit on the sidelines. So my advice to you is this: the best way to succeed in business is to just be in business. In other words, just start. Pick something. Because as soon as you pick something, and get started on something, the real journey and the real education begins. Forget all the training courses and all that noise. You just need to start taking action. What would that action look like? Start yourself an Amazon high brand management agency. It's a great business model. How do you get started? You literally just start reaching out to small brands on Amazon saying, do you need help? 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 If you say that enough times, somebody is eventually going to say yes. And congratulations, you are now in business and your journey begins. So that's the aspirational entrepreneur. For the operational entrepreneur, the thing that I see that prevents people from being in a position, say like I'm in, where maybe you have more than one company, or even if you just have one, but you're not working like a dog, like you have the entrepreneurial freedom to work 24 hours a day, is they spend too much time working in their business and not working on their business. And the reason they struggle is they struggle at team building, because you can't succeed on your own. You need a team. So there are several challenges for the startup or for the smaller company. One, how do I afford a team? And two, how do I find good people? If you have really great processes that are really well defined, employing virtual assistants becomes actually quite easy to do. I've been doing it for 10 years and we have a great deal of success with our virtual assistants. We have very low turnover and they're super affordable, because I can get a virtual assistant to do work for $3 an hour.
Wow.
If I'm hiring one out of Mexico, because I want them to be on my executive assistant is in Mexico. She's $6 an hour. She's a college graduate. She speaks perfect English. She lived in the United States. So the whole, oh, I can't afford, yeah, if you're trying to hire an American for 20 or $25 or $30 an hour, sure, yeah, you can't afford them. But if you're not making use of what I call, virtual, just call them virtual assistants, people in countries where their cost of living is a lot lower than here. If you're not making use of those folks, that tells me that you're doing a whole bunch of $10 to $20 an hour work that you shouldn't be doing.
Mm.
And if you're saying, well, I don't know if I could find somebody who can do it as good as me, make a process so well defined that your mom could do it, and then they will do it 80 to 90% as good as you. So as an operational entrepreneur, you get to make this cool decision of, I choose growth or I choose control, but you can't have both. So control means I'm the best at this. Nobody can do this at me. I can't possibly delegate this, which is horseshit in most cases. Other people can do it too. They just need a good procedure to do it. Because if you're so busy doing it all yourself so that everything is always perfect all the time, you are also the bottleneck of your business.
Mm.
So you got to get out of the way. And the way to do that is through processes.
That's great advice. I am definitely in the camp of not hiring enough VAs. All of our staff are in, most of our staff are in the UK and the US. However, in the last week, I've actually just hired my first Philippine person, and she's $8 an hour. And we're in the trial period, getting to know each other. And I've actually defined the procedures, and I've used Zapier and I've done Airtable. It's super cool. I'm actually really excited. I'll probably do a video about this one day in the future when I get a chance. But yeah, hopefully she's gonna be responsible for publishing some of my stuff. I'm just trialing it to see how it goes. $8 an hour, again, that's, I mean, it's slightly more than you mentioned, but it's super cheap compared to what we pay for people over here and in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that advice. I love how you split that as well between the aspirational and the operational. So Trent, let me show you this really technical diagram that I've put together to describe how you make money. So let me know when you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so we've got, tell me if this is right or wrong. We've got Bright Ideas Money Stream podcast, pricing and how it drives revenues, ads and affiliate, gold package, roughly approximately $5,000. You've got TLK Sourcing, Amazon reseller. The pricing just depends based on how much you buy the wholesale and the margins you want when you resell.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Flowster, which is your growing baby for the last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
400 customers is impressive. So sounds like you're onto something there. I could see investors knocking on your door for Flowster sometime soon. You've got 3 different plans. $29, $79, and $199 sounds very reasonable. And you have an SOP concierge service. I think that's clever, where it's a one-off project. It's a bit of injection of revenue, but most importantly, someone that needs a concierge service to migrate over to Flowster is going to stay with you a lot longer. I think that's really smart. It's you know, what's the word? It's product marketing, isn't it? Where the product itself is marketed, or the product is marketing, I guess, future products and future sales of the original product. So it's like a loop. Then we talked about where your customers come from. Inbound, bright ideas, inbound. You've been running it for so long. Just a question, because I'm interested in it. I know you've been doing bright ideas for a long time. How big is the audience on bright ideas?
Well, if you want to measure it, including my email list, my YouTube subscribers, all my followers on LinkedIn and Twitter and so forth, probably 60,000-ish, something
Wow.
like that.
And how long have you been running it for?
10 years.
10 years. So for those that are wondering, you know, they want to create content, they're not sure, they're kind of like wondering, should I do this, should I not? And then they get itchy feet and they want to jump into something else after doing it for 1 month. You got to just keep at it and publish, produce, get into a workflow and a rhythm. It sounds like, Trent, you've made it easy on yourself by having your setup, optimizing your time. But I think having a 60,000 plus audience who potentially are relevant for Flowster, maybe TLK sourcing, that's a great place to start, right? And people that actually know you and listen to you. I think that's really smart.
Let me just chime in on that for
Yeah,
a
please.
minute, because you're absolutely right in everything that you've said. First of all, I've done an absolutely horrible job of running my show. The reason is, like, for example, when I started TLK, I did not produce an episode for a year. So I more or less killed my own show in 2016. And I had to like relaunch the thing all over again. So you could do a much better job than I've done. But even the great thing about a podcast is when people, oftentimes they're going to listen to you while they're working out or driving or doing, you know, whatever. So they're likely, if they listen to the first 3 or 4 minutes, they're likely to listen to the whole episode, and then they're likely to subscribe on their phone through the podcast app, and they're likely to listen to more and more episodes. If you have even 1,000 downloads a month, that is 1,000 people, 1,000 people who are listening to your voice as you interview other people or do whatever your style is every single month. 1,000 of them. I mean, that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
Yeah, it's 1,000 people. And they're engaged, and they're waiting for your next episode to come out. Those are your tribe. Those are the people who, like, I launched a coaching program at the beginning of 2020 and ran it just long enough to realize I don't really like one-to-one coaching. But I would have people show up, and I charge $5,000 one-time fee for the year. I would have people show up for that because all I did was send an email out to my list, and people who are on my list obviously listened to my show and they'd seen all my content, and so they knew who I was. And I would start off my sales presentation saying, "Are you ready to place your order?" That was the way I started the call when they booked with me, and probably a third of the time they were like, "Yeah," and I go, "Okay," and I charge them $5,000. Without the content and the podcast, there's no way that's happening. People are like, "Who the hell are you? Why would I want to give you my money? I don't even know if I trust you. Like, you're some stranger." But when you start producing a podcast in particular, a podcast's not great at growing your audience. You need to layer ads on top of it or do some other stuff. But it's sure awesome for engaging your audience and building trust and rapport with your audience, because they hear your voice and their subconscious mind goes, one of two things. I like the way Trent sounds. I think I trust Trent, or I can't stand Trent and his voice drives me nuts and I'm never ever going to listen to him again, in which case they don't. But text does not do that. And video, which if you're making a podcast and you're not producing also the video, like you're out of your mind, it's the same thing. Video does it even better than just audio, because people get to see your face and your facial expressions, and the subconscious mind is going to think, Yep, that's somebody I like. That's somebody I trust. That's somebody who I'll send my money to.
Yeah, I had some real experience with that recently. I was on Clubhouse for at least 3 months non-stop. And I've taken a break. Recently, just because we're working on this new launch. But the audience, they wanted to learn about SEO. They wanted to learn about like the beginner version. So I put it out there after doing Clubhouse without charging anything for 3 months. I said, okay, I'm going to create a 5-day SEO challenge. And I've never had this, and I've never really done small sales. It's always been large retainers, big one-offs, or large coaching programs. And I thought, it'd be nice just to do a bit of volume for once. So I put
Mm-hmm.
it out on Clubhouse. I went, I'm going to do a 5-day SEO challenge. And I had like 11, 12 people sign up. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And now in theory, that product could it's on my website, actually, yourbrandfound.com. And I've just paused it and I've got a waiting list just for when I've got time, but I wouldn't have launched that. I've got 6 testimonials from the first group that went in it. And that is because all of them heard me talking about SEO for a good 90 days, just
Yep.
answering questions. And then when I was ready to launch something, it wasn't even a question. I didn't even have a landing page. All I had was a Google Doc that described what it was, and I sent them Stripe invoices. And
Yeah.
it was painful, to be honest. Now I've actually got a landing page. Funny enough, I've actually got a landing page, and then I've decided to pause it because I just don't have the time at the moment. But it was great. And I resonate with all of that because those people wouldn't have bought unless they heard my voice. Now, you can still see my screen, by the way, the
I can. Yeah.
presentation. Okay, so we've got customer source inbound for the podcast, outbound for TLK sourcing. That just makes sense. And then Flowster is interesting because you've got a real marketing mix across organic and paid. Organic being longer term brand building, maybe driving some of that SEO traffic in the future across different platforms. And then you've got paid acquisition, getting in front of new customers right now who potentially need your services. And then you've got some smart stuff around partnerships, which sounds like if that works, that could be a real winner. Historically, you've been in a good position because you built the business from TLK Web's product. But all of these other strategies is where the growth is then going to come from. From a sales perspective, your Bright Ideas is fairly straightforward, so is your TLK. But I think Flowster is something to learn in terms of hand-holding and paying more attention. So have I summarized this well in terms of how you make money, Trent?
Yeah. Yeah. Better probably than it's ever been summarized before.
Oh, amazing. 10 years as a project manager gets you to a point where you can quickly kind of put workflows together. But this is amazing. I love everything you've shared. It's very inspiring. I'm sure, I hope people watching this and listening to this feel inspired. And for those that want to come out and thank you or just say hi to you, where can people find you?
So if they would like to learn more about Flowster and the processes, go to flowster.app. If they want to listen to podcast episodes and get notifications of podcast episodes, go to brightideas.co. And then if they just want to reach out to me, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok. I'm like all over the place thanks to my team. And I think if you go to brightideas.co and you look like in the footer, you'll get all the links to all the other places.
Amazing.
Or you can just Google me. I have a very unique name, so I'm really easy to find.
Brilliant. I'll make sure I add the links in the comments below when we publish this. Thank you so much, Trent. Have a great week.
Yeah, thank you very much, Neil, for having me here. And thank you to everyone who has been listening. Hopefully that this was a good use of your time.
Sure it was. Thanks.